Ahoy, Nakama, and welcome aboard or walk the plank. We're your co-captains, Adam and Ed, and this is the Void Century Podcast. Your weekly deep dive into One Piece lore, lost treasures, and the wildest fan theories from the Grand Line to the Void Century. From ancient secrets to Yonko chaos and fresh chapter breakdowns, if you're chasing Laugh Tale, you're in the right crew. Yarg! Hit subscribe and let's set sail. Hello, welcome back to the Void Century Podcast, here today to bring you episode 40, chapter 1159 of One Piece, entitled The Island of Destiny. We're back here with Yamato's cover series. After that crazy reveal last chapter, we see Yamato, Page 1, Ulti, and Onimaru. They are heading back from the flower capital, eating a bunch of apples. Passing it along to you, Ed.
Thanks, Adam. So let's get to it. The chapter starts with 39 years ago at Hachinosu, and like things are like a mess, a riot in there. All hell is breaking loose because Shaki was kidnapped. So all the different pirates are actively searching. Apparently, Don Marlin was the one who was guarding her at the time, and he was slain, and we don't know by who. So there's just like a lot of confusion. And we see a close-up of both Rocks and Whitebeard, and they announce that someone kidnapped Shaki. So we get a panel from the narrator explaining that it only took a few hours and they left no trace behind. And all of the pirates are looking kind of distraught and sad. Gloriosa's crying. Except for Ochoku, who has been counting some cash. So he's kind of got like some snot dripping. He's got like his forked tongue out. You want to talk about Ochoku, Adam?
No, I just wanted to tell you it was a great call in saying that Shaki was the jewel of Hachinosu and that she was stolen by the world government and taken to Cod Valley. So nice foreshadowing there, Ed.
That was foreshadowing by Oda, not me. Like, I cannot take credit. Like, I think that he just really spelled it out for us. But yeah, so Ochoku, definitely the traitor of the Blackbeard pirates. So like, why does he just have like a random stash of money that he's counting? Like, and specifically right after they announced that Shaki got kidnapped. Also, because they said that there was like no trace left behind, he's probably feeling pretty confident that he's getting away with it and he's just able to get that money. And then later on, we do figure out who captured Shaki, and we do see Ochoku sweating and asking, like, can we trust the source that, that's saying this? And yeah, definitely Ochoku was the one who was the betrayer. So I think it's pretty clear that Caribou is Ochoku's son. So do we think that Caribou is going to betray Blackbeard in some way too? Like, what do you think, Adam?
I definitely think he will. He's got slime ball literally written all over him.
Yeah, true. All right, so back to the chapter. Roger, he tears the paper. He looks enraged. I don't think we've ever seen Roger look this upset before. And he blames Rocks and Shaki, he blames Rocks for Shaki being captured. Like, basically, Hachinosu is Rocks' territory. Like, he was kind of on guard duty. That's the whole reason why she went there, was to be protected by the Rocks pirates. So yeah, Rayleigh is also looking really sad and distraught, learning about Shaki's capture. The narrator states that people all over the world sank into deep despair, and the world's economy ground to a halt for weeks. So it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. The whole world stops for this one woman. It really goes to show that the Kuja pirates really are the idols of the sea. Then the narrator lets us know 1 year later we hop to God Valley. We actually see Garling has been reunited with his lover, and we see this mysterious woman with the red hair pushing the baby carriage, saying, Shanks, Shamrocks, this is your dad. So this is the first time Garling ever got to meet his kids, and we actually get to see Shanks and Shamrock again as little babies. They're so cute. They're twins, and then we actually see the woman says, Garling, these are your children. Why don't you stay here with me? And Garling's like, well, if I was to share a home with you, it certainly wouldn't be here in God Valley. Actually, the island's about to be destroyed, so you're going to have to find some place to go. We see around the island of God Valley is encircled by marine battleships reminiscent of a Buster call. And Garling says, hey, oh, by the way, I've already found somebody who's much better than you. I'm going to take her as my wife. You're just my baby mama. And he said he placed the order and she's going to be mine provided that I triumph in this upcoming tournament. So we see that the tournament is now starting on God Valley. This woman is actually shocked at the possibility of a tournament, and we see something shocking happen. Ed?
Okay, so honestly, might be the most disturbing scene in all of One Piece. It's up there for sure. But yeah, Garling impales Shanks and Shamrock's mother with a sword, and yeah, I just needed to just say how disgusting this is. Like, this is like the mother of your children, and like also just like while he's describing like how he's going to like basically murder everyone in God Valley. Like he's like saying this with a smile on his face to the mother of his children right before impaling her and stealing her children away from her. And yeah, I just wanted to just step in and just talk about how like disgusting Garling is, and he's up there as the worst of the worst for me in all of One Piece.
Yes, he is clearly detached and pure evil, it seems. He seems to be even worse than Caesar Clown at this point. But we do see Garling with his wrist-mounted Den Mushi, and he's calling in the Marines. He's telling them to begin the preparations. We see Marines storming the beach. All the citizens are caught off guard. They're like, hey, why are the Marines here? Like, why is the island surrounded by Marines? Are they looking for a criminal or a pirate? We see the townsfolk. They're trying to get the children inside as Marines are storming the town, and we're told that they're to load tranquilizer rounds and to just capture the townsfolks if they do not resist. So at this point, we see a young Marine questioning his superior. This young Marine wants to know exactly what the goal of this whole operation is. The superior lets him know, hey, it's a training exercise. Quit asking questions. This isn't your place. And this bigger Marine turns to a smaller Marine, which turns out to be a staff sergeant, and says, hey, like, what's the deal with this kid? Like, he talks too much. He's asking too many questions. And he's like, oh, well, this is a new recruit. He's still in training. And the townsfolk are just watching these people bicker and saying, hey, what's going on? We see the guy asking questions actually gets taken out with what can be assumed to be a tranquilizer round or bullet, and then we just see women and children cowering in fear. There's complete disarray. We see the townsfolk are running away. Some of them look like they could be armed, and the Marine again turns to his superior and says, hey, these are just ordinary civilians. Like, what's the deal? And his superior barks back and says, hey, don't question your orders. There's no room for personal feelings during military operations. Like, what are you doing? Just focus on completing your mission. And we see a close-up of this Marine's face now. He's very conflicted, looking down these sights of his rifle, and he's thinking to himself, oh, these are only tranquilizer rounds. They're not going to hurt anybody. And then we get a close-up of this Marine with an info box. And we see that this is none other than Monkey D. Dragon. So things are definitely coming to fruition here. We see that Monkey D. Dragon is in fact on God Valley, and he says, hey, if you just let me take you in, I won't shoot you. And the townsfolk's enraged seem to be raising weapons, and they say, I don't know what's going on, but I need to get off this island. And they go to attack Dragon, and Dragon puts them down. Then all of a sudden in the background, we see a gigantic explosion, and we hear the command to put on your masks. This is a massive sleeping gas charge or bomb. And this Marine suddenly turns to look. And what does he see, Ed?
Monkey D. Dragon?
Yeah, so Dragon himself is at God Valley, as we called. So what do you think about his character and his motivations currently on the island?
Yeah, so I'm just excited that, we're finally seeing Dragon. Like we barely have any dragon in One Piece, and we're seeing him as a child. He's probably around the same age as like Luffy, right? Like he's like a teenager at this point. So yeah, like I think that it's just really cool that we already see him questioning orders and like his upper authority figures. He already seems to have like a good conscience. He has a interesting armband that actually looks similar to like his future tattoo that he has like on his eye. The tattoo design does kind of also seem similar to like what we've seen with the sky races of Skypiea, and also the Earth God seen in the mural in Elbaf, the giant mural. So yeah, he doesn't want to harm these innocent people. He was like saying, okay, well at least they're tranquilizers, like knows like serious harm will come to them. And we can kind of just already see the beginnings of questioning the world government and seeds of doubt and why he could potentially have defected from the Marines and joined the Revolutionary Army. You got anything to add, Adam?
Yeah, I just want to talk about Dragon's character design a little bit. I don't know if this is like a flourish or anything that Oda's actually using on some of the panels of Dragon's design, but if you look, it looks like he has some kind of marking over his right eye, similar to his son and his father and other prominent members of the series. So I don't know if this is just, something that Oda took liberty with or something that's going to become more prominent in this series. We do see that is the same side of his face that he puts his tattoo on. So it's very interesting that he already has some kind of marking on his face. Perhaps he's going to get even a further scar in God Valley or something of the like.
Yeah, definitely. I do think it's a scar there. It's pretty small, but I think that it was it was displayed in a few panels, like enough panels, distinctly enough that I believe he is scarred. Good catch, Adam. All right, back to the chapter. We jump cut to the Navy prison ship transporting the slaves, and we hear a Den Den Mushi in the communications room. Then we see a Marine pass a doorway, and people other people dodge past the doorway, and the Marine questions whether or not like someone was there, but it ends up being Ginny, and she's meeting up with Ivankov, and they are like really happy to see each other, and they're in a room full of other slaves and captives, and Ginny announces that she got her message out. So I guess she sent it out via Denden Mushi, and it's really up to the informant to relay it. Like, who could that be? I think we're gonna find out. And then, oh, go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, if we look at the panel where we see Ginny and Kuma and Ivankov meeting up for the first time, you can see there's a couple slaves in the background just sitting down, looking downtrodden. One of them has like really long hair and a long face. He kind of reminds me of Basil Hawkins a little bit.
Yeah, I see that for sure. Possibly. Although Hawkins is part of the worst generation, so he might be too young. Maybe this could be like a parent of Hawkins. But
That's what
yeah,
I was thinking. Parent or
yeah,
relative, probably.
cool. All right, so then one of the other slaves is just telling them to like just not be too loud or do anything foolish, and like they just seem kind of defeated. And Ivankov like gets in their business. He gets in their face and he's like, "Hey, you need to try if you want to be slaved. Or if you want to be saved. You can't just like sit there and do nothing. And miracles are not easy to come by. You have to kind of like, force your own luck." And Kuma just looks over admiring the spirits of Ginny and Ivankov. So yeah, it looks like the way that Ginny got out was there's like a pipe that they broke, and Ginny is probably small enough to crawl into this pipe system and get into that communication room with the Den Den Mushi, and then she probably slipped behind the guard on her way back. She didn't use the pipes to get back or something. So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. And then we also see that Ivankov is just a badass. Like, look at his spirit. He's so determined. He's got that fire to want to keep living, want to keep surviving, and not giving into that despair of being captured. You have anything else to add?
I just think it's great that even when Ivankov was young, it still has like the whole Giga face going on, like the gigantic face. Really, you really get to find out what the origins of the Death Wink are.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, also just like Kuma being inspired by Ginny and Ivankov, like we really are seeing like the beginnings of a long friendship and camaraderie between the three of them. Like obviously we know that Kuma and Jenny like, end up marrying, and then Ivankov is close friend like for the rest of their lives basically. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice to see the beginnings of their friendship, and I wish it was just under better circumstances. But that's why their bonds are so strong, because they've been through hell and back, right? So
Exactly.
then the narrator jumps us to the Cypherpole Intelligence Bureau. We see a couple Cypherpole agents, and they're questioning how somebody could get some intelligence about God Valley, and they're like, oh, what is it this time? And we see actually a young Big News Morgans looking really cool with his newsboy hat, and he's got his hand out. He's looking to get paid off from the government, and he's like, hey, listen, I will go ahead and keep this information quiet if you guys give me some money. And we see he's got some blinged out private investigator albatross henchmen around him, and he's like, world government, just try to stop me. He's like, whether you pay me off or not, I'm gonna leak this information to the rest of the world. And they're like, oh, how is he so powerful? He's just some little kid running a paper. Like, how does he keep getting all this good intelligence? And then we see the other Cypher Pole agent, and he's like, don't push your luck. You're not gonna like what happens if you keep pushing your luck. So, teenage Morgans, we see he's president of the World Economic Journal as a teenager, so we can only assume he probably started this paper. And really, how can he be so powerful at so young? I think it's because he has that albatross fruit that allows him to control all the news crew. And furthermore, similar to, his name escapes me right now, but the revolutionary that controls the crows, he is able to like literally manifest them and see through them, and perhaps a lot of the seabirds in One Piece fall under his command, and he's able to see through them and hear through their ears and gather information that way. It's the Reddit meme like birds aren't real, they're just government operatives. Well, in the One Piece world, that could actually be a reality. So he has a bird entourage of private investigators, gumshoes, if you will, and they really speculate on his intelligence gathering abilities. I really think that he does have eyes and ears everywhere, and thus it gives him an intelligence network even stronger and larger than even Big Mom's herself.
Yeah, honestly, Morgan is really cool. I'm a fan. So back to Hachinosu. The pirates hear that Shaki is alive, and we see the Hachinosu's skull from afar, and it's got heart eyes, and it's so adorable. I love it. And yeah, I guess the transmission must have gone through. Either they heard the transmission directly, or they got it from Morgan. And they hear that Shaki's in God Valley, and with the world government and Ochoku. This is where Ochoku's questioning if like the source is reliable, and he's looking scared and very uncomfortable about this fact being revealed. So yeah, again, he's probably the informant. You got anything to add, Adam?
So I just think it's very funny when Ochoku was first introduced, he was called the pirate prophet, right? As in somebody who can commune with God or see the future. But we're starting to learn he's really more money driven. So perhaps he's the pirate prophet who's only
Oh
after quick gains.
my God. That is that is good. I like that a lot. That's a very good pun. I don't know if that's intentional, but I wouldn't put it past Hoda. That's a great pun. All right, so Bakken agrees that Shaki has to be on God Valley, and the rest of the Rock's crew can't believe that the world government captured her. So Whitebeard is surprised to learn that the tournament is real because like they just kind of heard it as rumors. And Big Mom notes that the devil fruits are also real prizes and tells Kaido that maybe he might find a fruit there. And yeah, Kaido's definitely interested in the power of one of the fruits. And Big Mom is also interested because she has children that she wants to, make sure that they're strong as well. So she wants to grab a few fruits for her kids if she can. And Strusen thinks that the intel might be a trap, which is kind of sussy. I wonder why. And Rox is just like telling him to be quiet. Then if he's nervous, he can just stay back on Hachinosu because everyone who wants to go to Hachinosu, or sorry, that wants to go to God Valley from Hachinosu, like join up and let's go. Then we next cut to the Roger pirates, and Roger's asking Scopper where God Valley is, and Scopper's saying, you know what, like it's pretty far, but I think we're gonna make it just in time. And so Roger asks his crew if everyone is, willing to go, and especially Rayleigh looks resolved to go and save Shaki. And also he knows that Rox is probably already on the move, so there's no way he wants to let Rox get there first before him. So next, the narrator panel pops up, and the narrator states that it's an unlikely turn of events led to the mobilization of the toughest of the sea. And Garp hears Roger is going to God Valley, and he doesn't care too much about the Shaki part, but the fact that Roger is going, he's like, well, we gotta go and intercept the Roger pirates.
Yeah, it's really funny what Garp's motivations are at this point. And we jump cut again, and seemingly through fog, we see a giant ship. But not only is it a giant ship, it's also a ship for giants, we find out. So it appears in front of the Rock's crew, and the crew immediately wants to sink the ship, but Rox orders them to wait, and sure enough, it's none other than Harold himself. And he said he heard Rox and his crew were obsessed with Shocky. He's like, I have no idea why you guys care about that woman so much. And he said they could sink Rox if they really fought without care for their lives. And they really just put it all out there. They could just take the whole Rox crew. And then Harold says, hey, look over there. It's a government spy ship that's watching us right now. And then Rox is like, hey, I don't understand. Like, why are you still trying to win favor by working for the world government? And he says, Harold, you might be the king of giants, but you're definitely underestimating the Rox crew. And we see Big Mom and Kaido and Whitebeard behind him as he says this. And he's like, listen, we don't have to fight. Why don't we just talk this out like men, right? And then we see sake being poured into a giant Sakazuki cup, and Rock says, listen, I'm going to tell you some information, and this is going to be for your ears only. I'm not going to tell anybody else. Even my crew doesn't know this about me. And the giants are like, Harold, why do you even entertain this guy, this villain? We see Shiki in the background, and he's crying, and he's like, why are we wasting this time? Shaki's in trouble. She's calling out for me right now. And, we get a close-up of Rox's face, and he says, listen, I have a hidden name. My name is actually Davy D. Xebec. And Harold's like, wait, you're not called Rox? Yeah. So he's actually a Davy. So not only is he a follower of Davy Jones, he is a literal descendant of Davy Jones himself. And he says, listen, I reckon the world government has been trying to erase this name for a very long time. And he says it's tied to the lineage, like we just said, of Davy D. Jones. So Davy Jones, deconfirm. And he says the name, it still commands some influence in the other world, but, now it doesn't have such a good reputation as it used to. And he says, I'm not sure if the timing was good or bad, but I did have a kid a couple years ago. I sent my family away to keep them safe. I sent them to my hometown because you can count on the Davy clan. And Harold's like, I understand that you have a wife and kid and they're back in your hometown, but why would you even tell this to me?
Yeah, I mean, like, a child is a parent's weakness. And we also, well, sorry, Rox then reveals that his hometown is in God Valley, which is the reason why he's revealing all of this to Harold. And
Ooh.
yeah, it's spicy. This is just so much. Anyway, Harold asks if the world government staged it to lure Rox in there, and Rox says no. Like, they wouldn't want Rox to crash the party. Like, they made a huge mistake, and he feels like it's destiny that's pulling him into God Valley and, facing everything that's happening there. He also just says that, capturing Shaki was their biggest blunder because, like, even though Rox isn't in love with Shaq anymore, he's got like a woman that, birthed their son. Like, clearly he's in love with this woman. I think that he still is prideful and wants to protect her. Like, she was under his protection, and there's no way he's just going to sit back and let her stay captured by the world government. But he says that as long as he can save his wife and his kid, he can be at peace. And so even more so than, capturing Shaki, like he cares about his kid and his wife. He also feels like luck's on his side, so he just asks Harold to lend him a hand, like one final time. Hey, be a homie. This is what the world's government is doing to me, like your friend. And unfortunately, Harold declines, and he instead threatens to sink Rox's ship. And now Rox is just upset. He just wants to be with his friend and have his friend have his bag. What do you think about this, Adam?
I just think it's crazy that at this point, Harold knows that the world government is literally hunting people on an unaffiliated island for sport, and yet he still wants to be their dog. Makes me feel gross.
Yeah, exactly. And so Harold is getting ready to fight Rox, and he tells his men not to interfere. He wants a fair one-on-one. And we see a giant explosion, the giant's ship, and Rox yells at Harold, calling him a rat. So yeah, Rox is just kind of putting in like this last-ditch effort to convince Harold with logic, with reason, even with emotion. And he's just, I don't know, Harold is just not, siding with Rox. And like at this point, I don't see why. Like, anyway, we get the Davy reveal. Davy D. Xebec is Rox's true name. He is a D. He is a Davy. Honestly, I love Rox. Like I think he is just like we haven't seen him do anything evil. Like the only like the evilest thing that I can think of he did was embezzling from that child's like you know children's, what is it, charity island that was called Embezzle Islands, and that was like, an embezzlement. Like that wasn't a bad thing. That was something that was illegal that he was kind of like Robin Hooding away from the rich. You have anything to add about that or something else?
Yeah, his only crime was stealing from the government slush fund.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, the whole like Davy name losing its influence, like maybe that's related to just, there's less people that are part of the Davy tribe now. Like, I'm sure that the world government would want to get rid of, anybody that's part of the Davy tribe, just like anybody with a D tribe or anybody from
The
what the
Buccaneers.
yeah, the Buccaneer tribe. So yeah. Also, oh, at least at this point though, it still had some sway. Like, I wonder if it still has sway in the present day with Blackbeard. Maybe not. Also, utilizing the Davy back fight just makes a lot more sense just because this is part of Rox's heritage. Like this is like, his this is like what his ancestors did. What do you think, Adam?
I just wanted to note that the only other Davy back fight we've seen has been those between Foxy, so I also like to think that Foxy could be affiliated with Davy Jones in some way. Maybe Foxy, candidate for a D?
So yeah, I think that Foxy might be like maybe not like related to Davy, but still like inherited the Davy will just because, he really is kind of doing the keeping the Davy back fight fire alive. Okay, so yeah, confirmed that he had a child in East Blue, and I mean this is obviously Blackbeard, so it's Teach, not Buggy. I guess there's still hope. We were wrong. I think I said that Buggy was older than Teach by a year, but it's actually the other way around. Teach is actually older than Buggy by a year. So who knows? I'm not gonna throw away that theory quite yet. So anyway, yeah, the child was born in East Blue, and the Viva card says that Blackbeard was actually born in Shadeport on the Grand Line. But anyway, his he wanted to send his child and wife to God Valley to be, his hometown, like, with the Davy clan has their back. So I'm thinking that there's more Davy clan members at God Valley as well. But yeah, even back to the conversation between Rox and Harold, even, pulling to the logic and even with the emotion, we see Harold is actually, I don't know if it's for sure, but it looks like he might be sad and crying. It looks like he might be tearing up a little bit when he says that he can't agree to side with Rox and instead deciding to fight him. Yeah, what do you think?
I think he's really conflicted. This might be another moment that we see Harold just snap. I don't necessarily know if Harold is defeated here, but if Harold follows Rox to God Valley to see this all for himself, I think it's just going to break him.
Yeah, yeah, and honestly, we can only assume that Harold lost against Rox just because we know that Rox makes it to God Valley. So I think that honestly, if they fought at full strength, I would say that they're probably pretty even. But I think that between oh, you got anything to add?
I just wanted to say, I think Harold is being a big baby, perhaps even a giant baby about this all.
Yeah, yeah. But I would say that at full strength, they're probably about pretty even. But I think that the talk and what Rox was saying before, on top of just Harold's lived experience, has kind of faltered his drive and his conviction of wanting to be part of the world government. I do think that Rox was able to partially sway Harold, and that's why he just doesn't have the same conviction and the same drive in what he stands for and what he's fighting for. And ultimately, that's the reason why he would lose to Rox in this particular battle. Rox's dream is still alive, and on top of that, he's got the motivation to save his child and his wife. And yeah, on top of that, Harold has already seen how the world government operates, dangling that carrot on the stick that we talked about before of adding them as an affiliated nation, but he's seen them do it to other nations as well. Yeah. And then also Harold's dream overall has just been kind of slipping away from him for a while. We've already talked about how his features have been kind of going from, the happy features to kind of the more dark and angry features. Yeah. So I think that Harold does still have a kind heart deep down, and he absolutely sympathizes with one of his closest friends, Rox. And, he's a father. He has, well, he lost his wife. He still has Ida, who he's close with. I don't know if they're still seeing each other romantically, but I'm sure he cares about her deeply still. She is the mother of his first child. So yeah, it's just kind of how can Harold support the world government who slaughters innocent civilians? There's kind of also that mirror between Harold and Dragon here, where Harold is from the outside trying to get into the world government, and he's witnessing these atrocities performed by the world government, and he still wants to join, whereas kind of Dragon is on the inside and he's seeing all the horrible things, and he's like, how can I just blindly follow this evil organization? I need out. So I thought that there was really interesting mirroring between Harold and Dragon in this chapter. Okay, so back to the chapter. The narrator states that it's hard to believe that every 3 years the celestial dragons hold this hunting tournament on unaffiliated nation, turning it into a hunting ground, hunting the natives for support, and seeing these poor, sad natives begging for their lives.
And we see an announcer who is hyping up the Celestial Dragons as we see the official start of the hunting tournament on God Valley. And we see all of the wonderful prizes, like a showcase on The Price is Right. And we learn that beyond all the rare devil fruits, in one of the calm belts on the Grand Line lies the Island of Women, a former empress and the most beautiful woman in the world, Shaku Yaku herself, to take as a wife or as a concubine or slave. And I just wanted to say, we see Shaki in a dress right now, and it's very reminiscent of a dress that Gloriosa wears. And not only does it have the Kuja Jolly Roger on it, but I just wanted to state the motif of the Kuja Jolly Roger is very reminiscent of something that we have seen before that we may or may not remember, but it is a similar swirl pattern and motif to some of the pictograms or the hieroglyphics we've seen on the moon during Anel's cover story, where he meets up with the automata, and we get to actually see the creation of the automata and the fleeing of the moon people to the earth, right? And we see that there is this soul or energy that is put into the automata that makes them alive, that powers them. For a while, I speculated that this could perhaps be the mother flame. And I think it is, or it could be like a soul energy of some sort. However, I think it's very interesting that this energy source, this soul, is called the mother flame. And yet this is a motif worn by Kuja empresses, the most beautiful women in the world. And like we touched on previously, Ed, the only thing that is more powerful in this world, I believe, than romantic love is a love that a parent would have for their child.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
mother's love, if you will.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's demonstrated actually multiple times this chapter.
100%, as we will see. So we do see the celestial dragons. They are absolutely losing their mind over the chance of winning such a prized prize, right? Shakuyaku herself is the definition of a priceless treasure. We see a younger Summers saying that, oh, he can't wait to make Shaki his property when he wins. Bad guy Summers taking an L, because we see Garling Figerland saying, Summers, get real. In no universe are you ever going to win this one. I win all the tournaments, bro. She's mine. She's my wife. And we see the mysterious other man mayor with the hat with the tongue sticking out that we've seen before on God Valley. And this person states that with Gunko there, they could perhaps even win the Clan War trophy. So it's very interesting. What do you think about these strong families, Ed?
Yeah, so I mean, we don't know that much about like celestial families, or sorry, celestial dragon families, but I do think that it stands to reason that we could assume that the three of the most powerful families and the celestial dragons have to be like Figurlin, Summers, and Manmere. Because like we know that they're God's knights. We know that one of them is a Gorosei. You got anything to add?
We do know some of the Gorosei have last names, and I'm sure they're pretty powerful too, but also the Nerona family is really prominent. That's Emu's last name, or so we're led to
True,
believe so far.
true, and yeah. So we haven't seen that other man mayor relative of Gunkos in the present day. So who knows? Maybe he or she, it looks feminine. I'll just say she for now, might have been possibly slain during the hunting tournament. Like I'm thinking that maybe something like this man mayor relative and Gunko are working together and they find Shaki and they're about to claim her as their prize, and then Garling swoops in and kills the man mayor relative of Gunko to claim Shaki for himself. So like something like that might have happened. I'm just making something up, but it's just fun to think about that. We haven't seen this man mayor, but we still have seen Gunko. Also, yeah, all three of these families are still very prominent in the present day. Gunko is actually, she looks the same age, even though this is like 40 years ago. And then Summers definitely looks older. He looks kind of like the dude vibes from, what is it, Big Lebowski?
Big Lebowski.
Yeah, if you guys have
Yeah.
ever seen that, I mean, it doesn't help that we first see him in his like pajamas or whatever. And then, yeah, of course, Garling Figerlin has ascended to become a Gorosei, so of course he's very prominent. And then his son has become the new champion of the Gods Night, the leader of the Gods Night, Shamrock Figerlin. So, yeah,
Wonderful. We see Dragon entering a room, and we see a trail of what can only be assumed to be blood, and we see a woman lying on a sack, and she seems to be bleeding, and she says, my kids, you have to get them off the island. Don't let them take him. We can only assume that this is Figerlin's baby mother, the mother of his children's that he so mercilessly stabbed. Ugh. So it could be possible that Dragon might have been the one to put Shanks in that treasure chest that we see. Perhaps he wasn't able to locate Shamrock, or he wasn't able to locate anybody else really, or anything else to really hide Shamrock in. But we do know Shanks made it off the island in that treasure chest, so perhaps Dragon could be the reason why Shanks was able to get off the island. He probably wasn't able to save both of the children. And then in the next panel, we see a woman comforting another young child, and she says, "Come here, Teach. It'll be all right." So we can only assume that this is a young Marshall D. Teach, or Davy D. Teach, as it were. So she tells young Teach that he has to survive. So then in the next panel, we get the announcer again, and he says, "Every world noble knows that there are super rare rabbits in this tournament," which is how they classify really important targets for the hunting tournament. And he says, "Well, not only do we have a Buccaneer member this year for the tournament, but for the first time in over 800 years, we have also uncovered multiple members of the Davy clan." So Teach being a rabbit of the Davy clan is most likely what Garling was talking about, which would please the Great One. Perhaps the island is the last holdout or refuge of the Davy clan themselves, right?
Yeah.
So to find the last vestiges of the Davy clan would allow the world government to finally wipe them out. And what better way than to make a game out of it, I guess. Gross.
Yeah.
So we know that Davy clan was lost for 800 years, and this was before the Void Century, I believe. So we can only speculate after 800 years how many members of the Davy clan still exist. We can only assume that Rox is probably the most prominent member of the Davy clan. It seems like the majority of them are trying to keep a low profile to stay away from the eye of Sauron that is Emu and the rest of the world government.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that Blackbeard took his mother's last name similar to Porcus de Rouge and Ace? This is just another parallel we have between Rox and Roger.
Yeah, I think it's very possible that he took his mother's last name. So, yeah, I like that. Yeah. Anyway, this is the end of the chapter, and wow, this was like honestly one of the biggest lore dumps that we've gotten. A lot of reveals. I wanted to start at the end. So we saw that podium with 9 like treasure chests, and then in front of them also Shaggy. So I guess like a total of 10 different treasures. But yeah, the ones in the chests, all 9 of them are confirmed to be devil fruits. And so we actually know a couple of them already confirmed, which is the pawpaw fruit and the azure dragon fruit. So we know that, actually we know that Kuma got one of them, and Kaido got one of them. So they got the azure dragon and the pawpaw. But like, what other fruits might be there? Like, I was thinking maybe like the hormone fruit for Ivankov potentially. Maybe dragon potentially got his fruit there. Any other potential fruits you think, Adam? Like, because Big Mom was talking about grabbing some fruits potentially.
Yeah, this could be where we found the Mochi Mochi fruit or the Heat fruit. We know that Oven and Katakuri are still really young, so they probably got their fruits really young, hence why Katakuri was able to awaken his Mochi fruit seemingly really young.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of cool. Like, it'll be cool to see. I feel like all or most of those fruits will be revealed during this flashback. Okay, so like, next topic. So we're just gonna do like theory time now because there's just too much to talk about. So the next topic I want to talk about is, remember there was that SBS, like a young Blackbeard. They were doing like young versions of the Shichibukai, I believe, and Oda drew him with like him crying, and there's like a crescent moon in the sky, and you know, maybe that could be related with the context, everything that's going on. Maybe it could be related to like Fickerlin Garling's crescent motif, because he's kind of like the boogeyman of God Valley, if you think about it. So, like, do you think that maybe that might be the case, or maybe it's something else? What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, I think the moon is really scary to Blackbeard, and he can't dream, he can't sleep, so he's got nothing left to do but sit and cry about the moon. I feel bad for the poor kid, especially now. I never thought I could feel bad about a baby Blackbeard, but here we are. And we know the moon also represents the second age, which is where we're currently at in the story, as signified by the crest of the Kozukis, right?
Right, right. So yeah, there's a few things. I mean, there's a lot of actual things that the moon represents in One Piece. So yeah. Okay, so back to Rocks. Let's talk about Rocks a little bit. So we are talking about how he's probably weakened by the time he gets to God Valley after fighting Harold. Like, even though he defeated him, like he's not getting out of that fight unscathed. So I think at this point, if they both are at God Valley, Rocks probably would not be able to defeat Roger at this point because Roger is full strength, like he's not weakened. But we know that like Garp and Roger and others and Whitebeard, well, actually, I don't know about Whitebeard for sure, but we know that like multiple people kind of grouped up to fight against Rocks himself. So if he's already weakened by Harold, I guess why would they like fight against him? Is it either like just like propaganda from the world government or okay, bear with me here, Adam. What do you think about the potential that Emu flipped Rocks and he went Giga Chad mode and kind of evil and they had to fight against him. What do you think about that as a potential?
I think that is a huge possibility. We see Emu does have the ability to flip or control people even with very high will, somebody like Rocks. But let's not rule out the possibility that maybe Rocks doesn't have a devil fruit right now, and like a last ditch effort, he gains the devil fruit power to utilize here.
Oh, yeah, there are 9 up for grabs, and that's very possible. Like, he probably wouldn't be, like, super good at utilizing it, but hey, what if it's, like, the darkness fruit that Blackbeard ends up getting, and he's like, hey, this is, like, what my dad had, so I want this fruit too, you know? Like, it could be something like that, too.
Yeah, I'm gonna perfect what my dad didn't have the time to or the
Yeah,
chance to, right?
exactly, exactly. And, going back to Blackbeard in modern day Teach, is is his goal right now like to get revenge on all of those that oppose his father? So like, Shanks, son of Garlic, we already know that they fought and he scarred Shanks. Ace, son of Roger, led to Ace's demise by, like the Marineford incident. Caribou, presumed son of Ochoku, has him in captive, and I could see very good chance that he kills him after he uses him for the information that he's got. Anyone else come into mind, Adam?
I just wanted to point out we don't know if this person was tied to God Valley, but Blackbeard did kill Thatch for his devil fruit. Perhaps Thatch was also involved with Rocks, or his parents were involved with the Rocks crew or the downfall of Rocks in some way.
Yeah, good point.
And the only other thing that I thought was very interesting is if Dragon is able to save a baby Blackbeard in some way and help him get off the island, it would only make sense why Blackbeard seemingly spared Luffy that first time on Jaya and went after Ace instead.
Yeah, yeah, I actually really like that as well. So like he's not just doing like all the slights, but he's also kind of like paying forward the nice things that happen to him as well.
I mean, he might not be completely evil, but he's definitely chaotic.
Yeah. Wait, 1 second. Actually, we don't know for sure if Dragon is the one that saves Teach, just because we don't see them together yet. So like, I'll say that like it's a possibility that that's the reason why Teach didn't like he let Luffy go, but we don't know for sure actually if Dragon was the one who saved Teach.
It's a definite if right now, but I
Yeah,
think there's a high possibility,
I
especially the way Oda laid out the panel.
I agree. Yeah.
So, furthermore, since we're talking about fathers, and it seems like we have been talking about fathers and mothers for the past couple chapters, we know Whitebeard was a father figure to both Blackbeard and Ace. So, I think it's really interesting that Whitebeard was both a father figure to the Davy clan and the Joy Boy clan. And we don't really know if Whitebeard is a D himself. We do know that this conflict between Blackbeard and Ace literally led to the death of Whitebeard and the crew disbanding.
Mm-hmm.
It's just very interesting that Whitebeard would cast one of his sons out for killing another of his sons. And, you know, him and Ace were so close that they were literally like real father and son, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so, like, to the point, we don't know if Whitebeard himself was a D. He just seemed to have an affinity for them. We do see that in his last meeting with Roger, he asked Roger about the hidden initial and the significance of the initial in their last meeting. So we still don't know what the D stands for. We know some of the traits, like they're really lucky, they smile in the face of death, and we know that they are said to be the chosen enemies of God.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we can kind of get in a whole tangent about what the D stands for. But for the sake of time, I'm gonna move forward and yeah, kind of leading up to like the whole parents thing, or continuing off of that, I should say. We have a quote from Monkey D. Dragon from what was it, the Kuma flashback, saying that a child is their parents' weak spot. So this is very interesting, and again, it's been demonstrated throughout the series. This is probably the reason why Dragon separated from Luffy at an early age. So Luffy grew up really not knowing his father, just so that Luffy couldn't be used against Dragon. Roger, he also sent Rouge away and lined up Ace to be raised by Garp. Ace was both Whitebeard's son as well. So he was also the reason why Whitebeard died, was because Whitebeard was, trying to save his own son. So Ace was Whitebeard's weakness, you could say. Rock sent Teach to God Valley to save his son. Scopper wasn't able to protect his son, Colin, who's currently being captured by a God's Knights. Kaido, Momo got kidnapped by Kaido to get to Odin. Kuma's daughter Bonnie was captured by the world government. So we see this time and time again. Yeah, I just kind of think that, like it's just interesting to think about the different motivations of people and like how kind of sick and twisted people are for using their like children against the parent.
It just goes to show in the One Piece world that true evil does exist, and Oda is a gifted writer in such that he shows us things time and time again, but we don't really realize them until we open our eyes or he points these out for us.
Right, right.
So it's very interesting. Another thing that I wanted to point out that has another really interesting implication in it is that we know that during the Marineford War, which led to the demise of Whitebeard and Ace, we know that Kaido was mobilized to Marineford at this time. And we know that Shanks met Kaido on the open sea. They had a battle and Kaido was defeated, right? But like, what motivation would Kaido have to go to Marineford unless it was to save Whitebeard in some way, shape, or form? We do see by the way that Kaido and Whitebeard interact when they're younger that Whitebeard almost has like fatherly role to Kaido, like a big bro, like a Oniki kind of thing. Like he's really trying to show Kaido the ropes and he's really trying to look out for him, even though like Whitebeard doesn't seem to be too convinced by being on the Rocks crew anyway. He seems to be the most averse to actually being a crew member. So it's very interesting to see this relationship between them.
Yeah, they just definitely like big brother or mentorship vibes. And like honestly, like I can't really think of a reason why Kaido would want to do anything to help the world government. Like what would his motivation be to help the world government? Like he's kind of been against them his entire life. Like even as part of the Rocks crew, like they're super anti-world government. Like why would he change now? Like I don't buy it. So I do think that it's pretty likely he was going to help Whitebeard. Ugh.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's very kind of adds a strange wrinkle to the story now that you know this little detail, because perhaps Shanks didn't know that Kaido and Whitebeard were really as close as they were, and it could be that, we're led to believe that Shanks was there just to look out for like Luffy and Ace, right? But maybe Shanks was trying to get some favor with the world government in some way. Like, all right, I know that the child can't pay for the sins of their father, but in this chapter, we see Garling's quite I mean, I'm not going to use any harsh language, but he's quite the jerk, right? He's really bad guy. He's a villain, pure evil
He's
that
the
we've
worst.
seen in the story.
The worst.
Yeah, he's the worst of the worst generation, right? So he's not part of the worst
Yeah, I
generation,
know.
but he's just bad, okay?
Yeah.
So, and we know that Shanks had the God's Knights tattoo on the back of his arm when he saw that he met with Scopper, right? So it's very strange to understand what Shanks's motivations could be in the story. And as much as I think Shamrock is evil Shanks, right? Like, we don't know Shanks 100% as a character. And as much as I would love to believe that he is like the one who is watching over Luffy and who is guiding him and who is really making sure that he can fulfill Rogers and Joy Boy's will. Like, we can't be 100% positive because we know nothing about him. We still know nothing about him.
No, he's a good guy. There's no way. I mean, like Roger gave him the straw hat. Like he's a good guy. Like I refuse to believe Shanks is evil. Like I think that yeah, maybe he was trying to curry favor with the world government by like helping them out. Maybe he's a double agent, so maybe he was like pretending to be Shamrock and currying favor for the world government so that they would, give him some information. Who knows? But I refuse to believe he's actually a bad guy. Like that would literally crush me deep in my soul.
Well, it would definitely turn the story completely upside down, but Oda's done some crazy things in the past.
That's very true.
Raizo is safe.
Raizo is safe.
So thank you for sailing with us. This has been episode 40, chapter 1159, The Island of Destiny of One Piece. Thanks for joining us. That's it for this Voyage of the Void Century podcast. Listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you sail for One Piece content. Catch our bite-sized theories and lore on TikTok and Instagram Reels. Until next time, whether you're seeking the poneglyphs or unraveling the history behind the Will of the D, listen to the voice of all things and we'll see you on our next voyage.